Welcome back to our YouTube channel, Gossip Wire Breaking. You'd best sit down for this one, since the tea just scalded the entire internet. After 20 years of riding for Jim Jones, putting her life, dignity, and sanity on the line, Chrissylampkin has finally pulled the plug. Not quietly. Oh, she did not just walk out the door. She slammed it. Jim's entire career was buried behind a pile of receipts, legal paperwork, and dirt. Is this the conclusion of a poisonous love story, or the start of the messiest celebrity downfall in recent memory? And let us not pretend that we didn't see this coming. How can you be engaged to a man for more than a decade and still end up empty-handed? Chrissy spoke enough, and the truth is erupting like a reality show finale. I've left the script behind. Check for any secret affairs. Hidden check your bank account. Double check the alleged money laundering. Okay, and thief. They could already be circling like vultures. Buckle up, because this isn't just a breakup. This is the full dismantling of Jim Jones' empire. Brought to you by the woman who knew everything. The game is over, the curtains have been drawn back, and the receipts are printed in color. Let's get started. Everyone assumed Chrissylampkin would never leave. No matter how many times Jim Jones disrespected her, ignored her, or left her waiting like a backup dancer in his flashy rap, she'd just keep holding it down. But guess what? A fairy tale. The illusion has been shattered. Chrissy did not just depart. She blew up the entire castle. Up on her way out. For over 20 years, she stood in his shadow, faithful to a fault and enduring public humiliation. The covert cheating and broken promises that ranged from reality TV screens to private luxury rooms. And after all of the stillness and sacrifice, she eventually remarked, "That's enough." But don't get it twisted. This is more than just a woman walking away from a man. It's about a woman walking away from the lies, manipulation, and a bogus empire built on illusion and ego. Because Chrissy did not decide to file for divorce one morning. No, she spent months, even years, watching, collecting, and waiting for the ideal time to flip the script. Jim Jones felt he had her cornered. He assumed that as long as he threw her just enough crumbs to keep her quiet, she would never leave the table. However, he was unaware that Chrissy was starving, and now, she's eating off of a whole new platter. According to sources close to the couple, Chrissy discovered a string of affairs, including hotel receipts and private jets. Itineraries, images, and even notes from ladies who are brave enough to provide her screenshots of their exchanges with Jim. But this was only the beginning. The true treachery is the money. Because, when Chrissy stood by his side, investing in his brand, holding down their shared businesses, and fronting like a ride or die, Jim was allegedly siphoning money out the back door to fund hidden ventures, some of which involved other women. Expensive gifts, overseas trips, luxury apartments. The hush money was allegedly paid for entirely with business funds that Chrissy co-signed. The worst aspect is that some of those firms were registered in her name. That is right. Documents surfaced that showed Chrissy listed as an executive in She had never heard of these companies before. Accounts were opened under her name. Transactions that she never authorized. And when she approached Jim, he flatly denied everything. But Chrissy possessed the receipts. She reportedly engaged a forensic accountant to monitor the flow of funds. They discovered something more than just Judy. It was a crime. We're discussing offshore accounts and real estate assets. In some nations, there are shell businesses and a paper trail, so tangled that someone could end up in jail. And as Jim was, Chrissy sat on evidence while flexing on Instagram. Screenshots, emails, and tax filings lead to a decade-long pattern of financial manipulation and deception. But here's when things become much darker. According to insiders, Jim allegedly registered firms using Chrissy's social security number without her knowledge. Guess who would face the consequences if those businesses were audited? Chrissy. It was the last straw. That's when she realized it wasn't all about betrayal, it was a setup. This wasn't just one man being careless, it was a man defending himself at the expense of the lady who founded his brand. So Chrissy he was caught off guard. She didn't yell, she didn't weep on Instagram Live. She played it wisely. She put her legal team in place and began gathering. She gathered everything she needed and filed when the time came. And when she filed, she did not simply submit a divorce petition. She presented exhibits, documents, bank statements, screenshots, contracts, and so on. Her team did not merely go to family court. They contacted the Internal Revenue Service and federal officials. To anyone who could open a formal an inquiry into what the hell Jim Jones has been doing to behind the scenes. And let's just say the walls started closing and fast. People from Jim's own camp began to leave. Business partners began disappearing without explanation. Former pals were unable to comment because they knew what was about to happen. This was not just Chrissy revealing an adulterous man. Chrissy revealed a complete machine based on manipulation, secrecy, and possibility fraud is alleged. And now that it is unraveling, everyone who was involved is attempting to quietly disconnect. But it's too late because Chrissy didn't immediately blow the whistle. She blew whole siren. Insiders believe Jim Jones is frantically trying to freeze accounts, call in favors, and move assets. But it's not working. Why? Because Chrissy was 10 steps ahead. Remember, this is the same woman who waited over a decade for a proposal that never materialized. The same woman who got down on one knee and proposed on national television, leaving Jim perplexed. The same woman who was criticized for staying with a man who had no intention of marrying her. She's not stupid, she was just quiet. And the silence has changed into a roar. She isn't simply going with her dignity, she is going with leverage, because those businesses Jim signed up under her name. They have now made her eligible for a portion of everything. She wasn't simply emotionally committed, she was also financially invested, and if her name is on the paperwork, it implies she gets a piece of the pie, whether Jim likes it or not. Legal experts are already chipping in, claiming Chrissy's case is strong, not just for divorce, but with restitution. If federal charges are filed, she may be able to walk away as a witness. Jim is immune from prosecution while he deals with the consequences. And let's not forget about timing, because, just as this scandal is escalating, there are whispers of audits, investigations, and sealed court documents involving numerous industry figures. Could Jim have been part of something larger? Could more names be announced soon? Chrissy's move could unleash a domino effect, an effect that reveals more than just a deteriorating relationship. We could be looking at a huge financial scandal that extends far beyond just one celebrity marriage. However, the spotlight is currently on Jim. Let's be honest, he seems shaken. His friends are unfollowing him, brands are backing away. His once bulletproof image is crumbling under the weight of what Chrissy is revealing. For years, he pretended that he could not be touched, that whatever he did, Chrissy would stay, that the industry would safeguard him, that the fans would ignore what was happening. But not anymore. This is more than simply a mess. This is monumental. A woman scorned with evidence, access, and legal representation. That's fatal. Chrissy isn't just trying to get away. She intends to carry the entire empire with her. She had been silent for too long. She's been patient. She's been faithful, but she's had enough of being the silent participant in someone else's success story. Jim Jones thought he was untouchable. He saw Chrissy as nothing more than adornment. He figured she wouldn't dare. And now he's seeing everything he constructed, every cash, every contract, every facade, slip straight through his fingers because shattered. Now, the consequences are crashing down. And just as Jim thought things couldn't get much worse, the pressure cooker exploded. As soon as word spread that Chrissy had filed not only for divorce, but this could result in a federal financial inquiry, vultures started circling. Insiders allege Jim has been working overtime, trying to contact past associates, clearing up old records, and even requesting favors from people who aren't trying to be drawn into the fire with him. But here's the deal. Fire cannot be extinguished once it has started. Especially when the fire is fueled by someone who knows just where all the skeletons are buried. Chrissy didn't simply bring the receipts. She'd brought maps, directions, and timings. Apparently, there are emails showing money transfers between Jim and sham organizations, which exist only on paper but are used to transfer vast quantities of money between countries. One insider claimed Jim was funneling cash through accounts related to bogus real estate projects, and some of those accounts were mysteriously opened in Chrissy's name. That alone infuriated her. But what truly broke her spirit was discovering that some of those houses had been handed or rented out to ladies he was allegedly meeting on the side. Imagine thinking you're investing in your future, only to find your partner is using your identity to finance secret, luxury hideouts. His side pieces. One of the more shocking finds was an apartment in Miami that was purported, but she now had hard evidence. Security footage, energy bills, or even voice notes that were allegedly acquired from cloud backups that revealed conversations between Jim and this mysterious woman planning business trips. That has nothing to do with the business. And it didn't stop there. Another home appeared in Los Angeles. This time it was linked to a different woman. This one is said to have been around since Jim's initial mixtape days. Chrissy was supposedly identified as an investor in one of his music endeavors. Her legal team discovered that her name was used to conceal payments from performance fees and endorsement deals that had been secretly diverted. Chrissy was shocked, but not surprised. She was surprised by how deep the web was. But the big surprise occurred when a former financial advisor, anonymously of course, disclosed internal papers, reportedly proving Jim was moving cash in a way that implied intentional tax evasion. Multiple transfers under thresholds were aimed to avoid being detected, using cash-heavy industries to clean up money, deposits in foreign accounts registered to third parties with no evident relationship to G. They were all linked to individuals in his inner circle. Chrissy had accepted the same inner circle into their house, their dinners, and their trust. Now, they're scattering like roaches under a spotlight. One of Jim's close collaborators, who's featured in several interviews and always claimed to be like his family, he allegedly flipped to protect himself. Audio recordings purportedly recorded him talking to someone about how he urged Jim not to put Chrissy's name on those documents. The video concludes with him saying, "She's going to snap one day, man. You better hope she doesn't take you down with her." Well, that day has arrived. Meanwhile, the public has gone into a frenzy. Social media is awash with comments, memes, and hypothetical legal analysis. Fans who have once fans of Jim and Chrissy's ride or die relationship are now calling it what it truly was, a slow-motion train crash. Some defend Jim, accusing the pressures of fame and industry. Others completely support Chrissy, thanking her for finally standing up for herself and calling out the deception. She persevered for years. Everyone agrees on one thing. This is no average split. This is a scandal, a takedown, and perhaps a criminal case all rolled into one. Even celebs are responding. An R&B performer who previously collaborated with Jim tweeted, "Karma, don't miss. Chrissy always deserved better." Another reality star wrote in an Instagram story, "Let this be a warning. Never toy with a woman who helped you establish your empire, understands where all the wires are buried." Behind the scenes, chaos is worsening. Jim reportedly hired a new team of attorneys, including a criminal defense attorney, not just a divorce lawyer. Why? Because the Chrissy's financial trail affects more than just their marriage. It might result in IRS audits, criminal charges, and civil suits were filed by business partners who had no idea their investments were being routed through bogus entities. Some of Jim's greatest endorsements are now secretly being rebranded by brands that used to rely on his street credibility and hip-hop history. Are distancing themselves, removing content, stopping payments, and waiting to see how far the repercussions spreads. One brand allegedly blocked his account until they received proof that their sponsorship payments were not used in any fraudulent operations. Even the merchandise store is being scrutinized. One of the accounts used to process online payments was identified linked to the same offshore shell business linked to Miami property. Chrissy's lawyers are carefully setting out every business registration, transaction, and red flag. Experts are tracing the money. The paper trail is extensive, and the consequences are catastrophic. And through it all, Jim is said to be in panic mode. According to someone close to his team, he has been calling old friends, attempting to move assets, imploring erstwhile associates to publicly support him, and even threatening to sue bloggers and pages documenting the issue. But none of this is working since the receipts are excessively precise, unambiguous, and incriminating. Chrissy does not flinch. She's not breaking. She is not conducting interviews or leaks to bloggers. She is sitting quietly and confidently, aware that every action she makes now is deliberate. Each document she releases adds another nail to the coffin. She does not seek vengeance. She desires justice. She wants her name cleared, her investments recovered, and her dignity restored. For years, she let the world believe she was just a girlfriend who remained too long. Now, she's showing them that she was the businesswoman that was duped. She is currently turning the entire board upside down. And the scariest part is, according to various insiders, there's even more homes, more accounts, more individuals involved. People who felt they were safe. People who believed this would never be revealed. And if what comes next is even half as explosive as what Chrissy has already revealed, Jim Jones isn't just losing a relationship, he's losing a complete legacy. And, as the storm spirals, Jim Jones finds himself not simply isolated, But he is becoming increasingly powerless, and every move he makes now feels desperate. According to sources, he is holding emergency meetings. What remains of his inner circle, attempting to spin the narrative. But no matter how hard he tries, the truth is still leaking. They came out in waves. Former allies are suddenly too preoccupied to return calls. Longtime collaborators are ignoring him altogether, while industry pals are pretending they never knew him. Meanwhile, Chrissy's silence has turned Jim's silence is louder than any diss track he's ever released. Because he previously defended you through everything. That's terrifying. Make no mistake, Jim is afraid. Insiders say he's lost weight, isn't sleeping, and is incessantly checking blogs to see what's coming next. The pressure is mounting, and what's coming down the pike isn't just rumors. It's legal heat. Leaked court documents show that government agencies are drafting a formal case. Apparently, Chrissy's legal team did not just hand over bank documents and contracts. They granted investigators access to emails, servers, cloud backups, and transaction histories demonstrate years of questionable conduct activities that don't simply amount to tax fraud, but perhaps conspiracy and racketeering. Jim allegedly used front companies to hide money not only for himself, but also for others, and now the rest are in a frenzy. I'd think Jim would have he had covered his tracks. But hubris is an amusing thing. When somebody believes they're abandon caution because they are untouchable. That's exactly what Chrissy was hoping for. She allowed him to dig his own. Years have passed since his death, and now she's merely handing up the shovel to the authorities. But it's not just the beds Jim needs too concerned about. Former investors are reportedly drafting numerous civil lawsuits. Business partners who are feeling misled. They allege they invested money in joint ventures only to find out that cash were diverted, mismanaged, or utilized for personal needs, including luxury automobiles, vacations, and undisclosed payouts to quiet anyone who knew much. According to an unidentified source, Jim paid more than 6 figures in hush money to prevent specific individuals from testifying. In a private arbitration case, guess who has proof of these payments? Chrissy. She is not only carrying documents, she is also holding leverage. Real dangerous leverage. The kind that could end vast network of people who made their money through backdoor deals and dishonest enterprises. There are now whispers that some of these people are attempting to bargain their own immunity by turning on Jim. People he trusted and built. He started enterprises with people he considered family, and now they're flipping one by one. One former associate reportedly turned up ledgers, including payouts disguised as work expenses but used to fund personal shopping sprees throughout Europe. Another gave over text messages in which Jim allegedly discussed transferring money to a Cayman Islands account to escape detection. As these pieces come together, it looks less like a divorce and more like a criminal operation, crumbling in real time. Chrissy is playing the game like an experienced tactician at home. While Jim is tearing up in public, she is secretly meeting with media consultants, lawyers, and financial advisors. Word is, she's working on a book at a tello for clout, but a strategic account that reveals everything she went through, all she uncovered, and how she intends to rebuild without him. There's also talk about a documentary series pitch to major streaming platforms with Chrissy at the center, and an uncensored look at how she moved from ride or die to the woman who brought down the empire and the public. They're consuming it. She went from I was mocked for staying too long before being commended for eventually taking control. Consider this. This lady got on one. Kneeling for a man who never deserved her. She strove for a future that he never intended to provide. She built with him and mourned, Forshay defended him. And now, instead of crying in quiet, she's dictating the shots. And Jim, he is watching. Respect he had earned over 2 decades vanished in front of his eyes. Every headline is another setback. Every social media post reminds him that he no longer has control. The industry is cold, it also moves quickly. And when the narrative swings against you, it's nearly impossible to recover. Jim's fanbase is decreasing. His bookings are apparently down. And no one wants to be linked with a man who could soon face criminal prosecution. Sponsors are walking away, and promoters withdrawing contracts. Even his music, which was previously praised for its honesty, is now reevaluated with a darker lens. Can you really rap about loyalty when the world knows you betrayed the only person who had your back throughout it all? According to insiders, Jim is still hoping to make a comeback. He believes he can overcome the accusations, settle the lawsuits, and release a redemption record that will win the public back. But he doesn't grasp that this isn't just about the lits or the court of public opinion. Chrissy has already won the court case, because no matter how dazzling the apologies or how regardless of how costly the lawyer or how passionate the statement is, the receipts are now out there. The harm is done. The illusion is destroyed. And now the only thing left to see is how far the fall goes. According to reports, Chrissy is seeking full control over a number of their assets are split. And she is not involved in modest real estate, business shares, or trademarks. She is coming for it. Not out of malice, but because she helped construct it and is determined to reclaim what is rightfully hers. Some legal experts estimate Jim may lose more than 60% of his net worth if the court rules in Chrissy's favor, and if the charges are upheld, the total might rise considerably higher. In the worst-case scenario, he may be obliged to liquidate properties, surrender assets, and serve time in prison. And all of this might have been avoided if he simply respected the woman who built alongside him rather than attempting to use her as a shield for his mess. However, ego is a dangerous thing. It makes males believe they are gods, impenetrable and invincible. And Jim Jones allowed his ego write checks that his empire won't cash. Chrissy was the one holding the receipts. Now it's her turn to cash out. As the story progresses, one thing becomes evident. It wasn't just a breakup, a reckoning, a deliberate take. A lady reclaiming her authority and revealing the reality beneath the smoke and mirrors. And the entire world is watching. I'm waiting to see who else gets drawn into the repercussions. I'm watching to see if Jim still has anything to fight with. Watching to see if